Imagine your entire country has vanished. Homes, languages, and histories left without a trace. If we do not act now, this will be our reality, as climate change isn't just an environmental issue, but a human rights issue. Hello everyone, my name is Devereaux. As a youth advocate, the global issue of climate change became an issue that in good conscience, I cannot ignore. As a climate advocate, I've written policy briefs for Citizens Climate Lobby. I served as the Ethics v. Global Climate Advocate. Furthermore, I had the privilege of serving as the United Nations Youth Delegate and speaking directly to the European Union about climate change and youth engagement. And today, I am speaking to you. Climate change is currently one of the most pressing issues currently faced by the modern world. According to a NASA 2024 report, global average temperatures have risen by 2.65 degrees Fahrenheit since pre-industrial levels. As a result, sea levels are rising at an alarming rate, with projections estimating an increase of 75 centimeters by the year 2100. This has caused mass displacement, with millions more being predicted to immigrate from their homes due to worsening environments. The region most affected is the Pacific Islands, which typically sit just 1 to 2 meters above sea levels. Indigenous communities are being forced to leave their homes, leaving behind their lives and dreams. However, that is not all they are losing. Their cultures, identities, and nationalities are at a risk of fading. Indigenous communities specifically face the threat of cultural erasure as they resettle in new lands with different social norms, systems of powers, and languages. The country that has been most affected by climate change is Tuvalu. Tuvalu is located in Polynesia and is approximately 2,500 miles from Northeast Australia, with a population of only 10,000 people. Tuvalu's 9 islands spanning just 10 square miles are in danger of becoming extinct. In 2021, the Prime Minister of Tuvalu decided to address the United Nations Climate Conference standing in knee-deep water. This symbolic act was done to urge the global community to not ignore, to not remain silent, but to act. This powerful act demonstrated how climate change isn't something in the distant future, but is currently affecting the lives of people such as Tuvalu, but will eventually affect us all. In November of 2023, Australia and Tuvalu formed a rare unprecedented agreement. This agreement allows for 280 Tuvaluans each year to receive permanent residency in Australia. The migration of Tuvaluans to Australia directly connects to cultural and epistemic violence. Scholar Gayatri Spivak, who coined the term culture and epistemic violence, challenges us to think about it in relationship to wealth-fueled structures that trigger climate change. Culture and epistemic violence is a systemic silencing of marginalized groups by erasing their knowledge systems. In her book, Can the Subaltern Speak?, Spivak describes how colonial empires prohibited indigenous communities from expressing their culture. Epistemic violence isn't limited to traditional silencing practices, but it has been perpetrated in indigenous communities by climate change. Now, the wealth-fueled structures that cause climate change is industrialization. Industrialization causes climate change by a country's prioritization of wealth over the environment. For example, Australia implemented a carbon tax on its businesses in an attempt to transition to renewable energy. By 2014, though, the Prime Minister had repealed the tax because he wanted to address climate change without clobbering the economy, therefore prioritizing the economy over the indigenous communities who are being displaced. Although Australia is helping the Tuvaluans by allowing a space for them to live, it still comes at a great loss. As philosopher Christy Dawson explained in her journal, Tracking Epistemic Violence, Tracking Practices of Silencing, epistemic violence does not require intention, nor does it require capacity. Australia is providing physical safety for the Tuvaluan people, but it is not providing safety for their culture and their heritage. Additionally, Australia still contributes to the wealth-fueled structures that have caused the Tuvaluans to abandon their land, abandon their culture, and abandon their home. This is epistemic violence. Now, you may want to know, what have Tuvaluans been doing to combat their shrinking land masses? Tuvaluans have been tracking changes in tides, rainfalls, and erosions for generations. However, their knowledge has been consistently excluded. Excluding their voices in stories is dangerous, as we must learn from the perspective of the marginalized to better understand the issues that they are facing. In 2023, Tuvalu implemented the Constitutional Reform Act to affirm its national sovereignty, meaning that even if the land disappears, its identity and heritage are permanently fixed in maritime boundaries. This reform directly reduces culture and epistemic violence, as it ensures that the culture is preserved in the people rather than the land. Because even if Tuvalu disappears, the spirit of the people of Tuvalu will forever remain. Ultimately, we all have the responsibility to guard against culture and epistemic violence. We should be invested in the survival of all cultures such as Tuvalu, as they are an important part of our global tapestry. We should recognize that the relationship between climate change and culture and epistemic violence is one that could one day affect us all. That is why it is up to us to learn, to act, and to protect, so that all people in all cultures will be around for future generations. We must first start with legislation. I urge all of you to reach out to your legislators about climate policies, specifically to the officials who have cut valuable funding to climate change research and have denied the very existence of climate change. That is pushing climate change progress backwards instead of forward, and we must act now, because climate change isn't simply an issue present in the Pacific Islands, but it is currently affecting the lives of Americans. Thank you.